Hi, everybody. I'm Pierre Bouvard, Chief Insights Officer here at the Audio Active Group at Cumulus Media in Westwood One. And what to do when your campaign attribution is tanking and your campaign brand lift is weak. Well, your first reaction might be to blame something in the media plan or the media vendors. But more often than not, the issue is your creative and the failure to brand early and often. So here are 5 key takeaways. Number one, it is vital that you conduct a brand early and often creative asset. Watch and listen to all of your ads, the social video, the TV, the radio, the podcast, all of it, and examine each creative asset and check off if your brand is mentioned in the first 2 seconds and if there are at least 5 or more audio track brand mentions in a 30-second ad. Now, you can look away, but you can't shut your ears. And in video ads, surprisingly, audio does all the heavy lifting to drive brand recall. And a series of audio case studies reveals that implementing the brand early and often creative best practice can generate significantly stronger purchase intention, increased brand lift, and website attribution. And if you really want to create explosive recall and brand association, look no further than the jingle. A jingle with melody that says the name of your company is like kryptonite in terms of driving memories and brand recall. So don't blame the media plan or the media vendors for weak attribution and weak brand lift. Usually it's the creative that's the issue, and your ad copy is failing to brand early and often. Now, the Ehrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing Science reveals the 95-5 rule, which says that only 5% of business-to-business consumers or everyday consumers are in market for a product or a service, and 95% of them aren't. So you have the 5% that are actually ready to buy and the 95% that aren't. And so you need very different media and creative strategies to go after these two groups. So for the 5%, you have to convert existing demand, and you do that typically with sales events or performance marketing. Now, to go after the 95%, that's a memory game because they're not in the market. They don't care about your brand. They're not paying attention to your performance marketing, and they're definitely not paying attention to your sales event ad. So for there, you need to create a memory. But in both cases, your campaign will fail if people can't remember the name of your brand. Now, John Lombardo, who is a founder of an AI-driven marketing strategy measurement firm and previously ran the B2B Institute, says that one of the primary things people misunderstand is how advertising works. People think you just put an ad in front of somebody and they immediately buy. But he says that's not how it works. Generally, you don't generate a sale from an ad. What you generate is a memory. And at some point later, consumers will consult their memory. So we talked earlier about creating this audit. Go through all of your creative assets and discover, do you have your brand in the first 2 seconds? And equally important, do you have at least 5 or more brand mentions in a 30-second asset? Now, this is critical for video ads. And let me explain why. A major study conducted by DVJ Insights examined TV ads and studied how many times there was a visual logo in the ad, that's the gray line, and how many times there was an audio brand mention in the audio track of the TV ad. And what you're looking at here is brand recall. And so let's look at that gray line. After the first time you put that visual logo up, even if you go out to 6 visual logos in the ad, you can see there's very little increase in brand recall. But look at that blue line. That blue line is the number of audio brand mentions in your video ad. And look, the more you say your name in the audio track of your video ad, brand recall goes up and up and up and up. In fact, between 1 audio brand mention in your video ad to 6. There's like almost a 40% increase in brand recall. But if you put a bunch of visual logos in your TV ad, you're barely going to move the needle on brand recall. So in visual ads, whether it's TV or social video, it's the audio brand mentions that do all the heavy lifting for brand recall. And thousands of brand effect studies reveal in audio, the more you say the brand name, the more brand equity you're going to build, whether it's familiarity, affinity, likelihood to seek information, or just remembering your brand. So it is critical, whether it's an audio ad or a video ad, in the audio, brand early and often. And this is just as important in social video. A major study coming out of TikTok and System One, the leading creative measurement company, revealed when you look at the first 2 seconds of a TikTok ad, things like a sonic asset, a logo in context, a fluent character, or a jingle are big, big drivers in brand equity. So even in social video, having that sonic asset that associates the consumer to your brand is critical in the first 2 seconds. There's another watch out. If you are using in your social video an influencer or a content creator, you need to make sure that your brand is mentioned in the first 2 seconds, because if not, people will remember the influencer, they'll remember the content creator, and unfortunately, they will not remember your brand. So, a case study out of Veritonic, the audio creative effectiveness measurement company, examined an insurance company, and it's a big one. It's a one that you would instantly know. And they had a year or so where they had very poor brand mentions in their audio ads. And then there was a year where they did enhanced branding. They did earlier, brand early and often, and more frequently. And they wanted to compare the difference. So the first set of ads at the top are the new enhanced branding ads, and that brand went right into the first 2 seconds. Their prior work got really a D minus because their brand didn't show up in their audio ad until second 22 of a 30, or horrifically, second 27. They increased the number of brand mentions in the enhanced creative, not as much as we would have liked. They didn't go to 5, but it was a move in the right direction. And Veritonic measured a whole series of brand equity measures. And across the board, the blue, which represents the enhanced branding, and the gray, which represents the poorly branded prior ads, you can see across the board, across every measure, the brand equity was significantly improved. Happiness, optimism, trustworthiness, likability, and most importantly, purchase intent. Now, one of the things that Veritonic does is they ask folks before they play the ad they're going to test the likelihood that a consumer would purchase the brand. Then they play the ad, and then they ask the same question again. And what you would hope is to see a lift in purchase intent. Unfortunately, the poorly branded ads actually went backwards in purchase intent. So when you brand early and often, you are creating zero impact. The well-branded ads in blue there, you see a bump, a lift in purchase intention with the well-branded ads. Now, let's take a look at attribution, which is measuring, does a campaign drive search and site traffic? There was a national recruitment brand that used radio throughout the country, and they retained Leads RX to measure search and site traffic. Now, they did their brand early and often audit, and they found to their dismay that all of their assets in 2022 had miserable, and I mean miserable, brand early and often. Their brand name was not showing up till the very end of the 30-second ad. There were barely any brand mentions. Beginning in 2023, all of the creative ads cranked up brand early and often. You can see their brand was mentioned in the first second, and there were lots of brand mentions. So let's take a look at what happens with the poorly branded ads and web lift. In other words, literally the percent increase in visitation to the recruitment site. Well, as you can see, across the various campaigns, the attribution was in the small, modest to good range. So Not great. However, the executions from 2023, which had enhanced branding, as you can see, they were all in the good, very good, or excellent. So whether you want to improve your brand lift, whether you want to improve your search and site traffic or telephone calls, brand early and often is the key. Now, a major new study from Effie's, which is the leading marketing effectiveness competition that measures things like share growth, profit growth, revenue growth, they teamed up with System 1 and they looked at almost 2,000 campaigns across the US that examined small brands, medium brands, and large brands. And what they found was that if you have poor branding, that can ruin the effectiveness of your marketing. And so to the left of your screen are the smaller and medium-sized brands, and you're looking at the average number of brand effects. And you can see the high emotion ads did better because emotion is one of the best-selling tools you have. But look at that red bar on the left. There was 70% fewer brand effects with the poorly branded, weak branding creative executions. And to the right of your screen are category leaders. Now, you would think category leaders are famous, everybody knows them, but guess what? Poorly branded ads for leadership companies in their category had a 50% fewer positive brand effects. So this can hurt or help companies of all sizes. Now, if you really want to put the afterburners on for brand recall, look no further than the jingle. Mark Ritson, the potty mouth renowned marketing professor, says the king or queen of them all is the jingle. It smashes all other distinctive assets. And Veritonic offers two jingle creative best practices or two sonic identity best practices. It has to say the name of your company. You just can't have a bunch of notes. It has to say the name of your company. It has to have melody. Now, to the left of your screen, sonic logos that actually have the name of the company are 7.5 times more likely to be correctly associated with your brand. And to the right of your screen, sonic logos that have melody are twice as likely to be correctly associated with your brand. So Ty Heath from the B2B Marketing Institute kind of concludes and sums it up very nicely. She says, the brand that is remembered is the brand that is bought. The goal is not to create a lead. The goal is to create a memory. Lead generation is short-term. Memory generation is long-term. So win the mind to win the market. And mind share equals market share. So our 5 key findings: create that brand early and often. Audit. Make sure all of your creative assets have your name of your company in the first 2 seconds, and at least 5 or more brand mentions in the audio track for a 30-second creative asset. And even for your video, even for your TV, it is the audio mentions that are going to drive recall, not the logo flashes, because you can look away, but you can't shut your ears. And our audio case studies reveal that enhanced brand early and often creative best practices drive up website visits, brand lift, and purchase intent. And if you really want to crank up your fame, use a jingle. Mark Ritson says it is the king and queen of distinctive brand assets. But best practice, make sure the sonic logo has your name and it has melody. So in conclusion, don't blame the poor impact of your campaign on the media vendors or the media plan. Most likely creative is the issue, and your ad copy needs to improve on brand early and often. The Audio Active Group here at Cumulus Media in Westwood One is a full-service national audio brand advisory. We work with clients to measure the impact of their campaigns, whether it's a website lift, search and site attribution, brand lift, or sales effect. And we spend a lot of time worrying about creative best practices. Each and every week, we publish a new